तस्मात् श्रील भक्तिवेदांत नारायण गोसाई महाराज श्रील गुरुदेव की जय। नितिल प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद तस्मात् श्रील भक्तिवेदांत वामन गोसाई महाराज की जय। नितिल प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद तस्मात् श्रील भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी महाराज श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। नितिल प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद तस्मात् श्रील भक्ति विज्ञान केशव गोसाई महाराज की जय। नितिल प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद तस्मात् श्रील भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोसाई प्रभुपाद की जय। नितिल प्रविष्ट महाभागवत श्रील ऋषभजी महाराज की जय। नितिल प्रविष्ट श्रील सच्चिदानंद भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर की जय। नितिल प्रविष्ट वैष्णव सार्वभौम श्री जगन्नाथ दास बाबाजी महाराज की जय। श्री रूप गौरिया गुरु वर्ग की जय। श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल भट्टदास रघुनाथ शारद गोसाई प्रभु की जय। श्री स्वरूप दामोदर राय रामानंद ऋषि गोपाल की जय। नाम चय श्रीहरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासरी गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। शिक्षित मंडल गौर मंडल ब्रज मंडल मथुर वृंदावन धाम की जय। सर्व अभिष्ट विराट गिरिराज महाराज की जय। श्री राधा कुंड श्याम कुंड की जय। श्री मोन देवी गंगा देवी की जय। श्री तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जय। श्री भक्ति देवी की जय। श्री पूर्णमासी योगमाय की जय। श्री गोपेश्वर महादेव की जय। श्री हरि नाम संकीर्तन की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। समागत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। ओम ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। नमो ॐ विष्णुपदाय राधिकाय प्रियात्मने श्रीमद्भक्तिवेदान्त नारायणेति नामने। नमो ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमो ॐ शैवंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नाम्ने गौरत्विषे नमः। गुरुवे गौरचन्द्राय राधिकायै तदालये कृष्णाय कृष्णभक्ताय तद्भक्ताय नमो नमः। यं प्रव्रजन्तम् अनुपेतमपेतकृत्यं द्वैपायनो विरहकातर आजुहाव पुत्रेति तन्मयतया तरवो विनेदुस्तं सार्वभूतहृदयं मुनिमानतोऽस्मि। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। शृण्वतं स्वकथा कृष्ण पुण्यश्रवणकीर्तन हृदन्तस्तो ह्यभद्राणि विधुनोति सुहृत्सतम्। नष्टप्रायेष्वभद्रेषु नित्यं भगवत सेवया भगवत्युत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी। तवैवास्मि न जीवामि त्वया विना इति विज्ञाय राधे त्वां नायमां शरणन्तिकम्। भक्त्या विहीना अपराधलक्षय क्षिप्तष्टकामादितरङ्गमध्ये कृपामयि त्वं शरणं प्रपन्ना वृन्दे नमस्ते चरणारविन्दम्। भज श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानन्द श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासरि गौर भक्तवृन्द। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Dandavat pranams Gargaraji, Rup Manjari Didi, Raseshwari Mataji, and Indira Mataji. Dandavat pranams to all of you. Haribol. Close this. Give me a second. Okay, so let's just see what we read about Agnidra's, his rule and austerities, Agnidra's Purvachitti sent by Brahma, Agnidra's flattery to attract Purvachitti, Agnidra's family life, descendants, and attainment of Pitri Loka. These are all the topics we read in chapter 2. Then in chapter 3, we read about Ṛṣabhadeva's appearance in the womb of Meru Devi, the wife of King Nabhi. Oh wait, one second. Okay, so Agnidra had 9 sons in the womb of his wife Purvachitti. Yes. It was Nabhi, King Purusha, Harivarsha, Ilavrita, Ramyaka, Hiranmay, Kuru, Bhadrashva, and Ketumala. And after then Agnidra, sorry guys. So he wants to perform austerities. Then after the father was left, after the departure of their father, the 9 brothers married the 9 daughters of Meru, named Meru Devi, Pratirupa, Ugra Damishtra, Lata, Ramya, Shama, Nari, Bhadra, and Devaviti. Okay, so then the oldest son, Nabhi, married Meru Devi, as we just read, and so desiring sons, Nabhi and Meru Devi worship Lord Vishnu. And then the Lord appears in his beautiful form in the sacrifice that they did. And then we read the prayers by the priest, the people who are doing the yajna, the priest. They said, obeisances, you are transcendental. Descriptions about you eradicate sins. You are pleased by simple means and do not need elaborate sacrifices, but we do them for material benedictions. You have mercifully appeared before us. You have appeared before us fools only for our benefit. Your darshan is very rare. Please let us remember you during the difficulties of death. Nabhi is foolish. He is asking you for something meager, as he has not worshipped the devotees. Please excuse us for calling you here for material things. Please excuse us for calling you here for material things. And then the Lord's benediction to King Nabhi. The Lord was pleased and said, I will appear as Nabhi's son, proving the words of you Brahmins true. And then Lord Ṛṣabhadeva appears. And then in the previous chapter, we read the full 4th chapter yesterday. We read about the qualities of Lord Ṛṣabhadeva. He exhibits all the qualities of the Supreme, so his father named him Ṛṣabha. The ministers wanted him to rule. And then Indra becomes envious and stops the rain. But that was no problem because Lord Ṛṣabhadeva, he just made that function happen by his own power. Then Nabhi's Vatsalya Ras and perfection. So King Nabhi, he raises his son Ṛṣabhadeva with transcendental affection. Being popular and able to protect the citizens, Ṛṣabha was enthroned. The glories of King Nabhi. The father of the Lord and a worshipper, he was a father of the Lord and he was a worshipper of the Brahmins. He eventually attained Vaikuntha. Then we read about Ṛṣabhadeva's exemplary character and his sons. So Lord Ṛṣabha was a perfect brahmachari and also perfect grihasta. And then Lord Ṛṣabha's sons, he had 100 sons, right? And what were them? Were 9 of them? No. Oh God, what was it? Let's just go to that part, because I can't remember. He had 100 sons, and 9 of them were ascetics, and the other 9 were like the rulers of... Okay, the sons of Ṛṣabhadeva. There were 10 Kshatriya sons, and Bharat was the eldest. He was a great exalted devotee with best qualities. In his honor, this planet became known as Bharatvarsh. And then the other 9 sons is Kushavarta, Ilavarta, Brahmavarta, Malaya, Ketu, Bhadrasena, Indrasprik, Vidarbha, and Kikata. So those are the first 10 Kshatriya sons, and then there's 9 Mahabhagavat sons, the Nava Yogendras. That's Kavi, Havi, Antariksha, Prabhuda, Pipalayan, Avirhotra, Durmila, Chamasa, and Karabhajana. Oh, oops, I made a mistake. I said Saptarishi. Duh, it's not Saptarishi. Anyway, sorry about that. But yeah, we'll be reading about them in the 11th canto of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. They are very exalted advanced devotees, authorized preachers of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, and glorified for their strong devotion to Vasudeva. And then there were 81 perfectly qualified Brahmins' sons, who were well-cultured, well-behaved, very pure in their activities, and expert in Vedic knowledge and rituals. So Ṛṣabhadeva's qualities: he was fully independent, eternally free from material miseries, full of transcendental bliss. He was controller, he was equipoised, undisturbed by material senses, friendly to everyone, and merciful to all. Ṛṣabhadeva knew the confidential Vedic knowledge which contains all dharmas, yet as a Kshatriya, he followed the Brahmins. He satisfied Lord Vishnu by performing sacrifices according to the Vedic injunctions with proper ingredients, at a proper place and time, and with youthful and faithful priests. When Lord Ṛṣabhadeva ruled, even common men did not seek false objects by asking from others. They were completely satisfied and absorbed in great affection for the king. Once, while touring the world, Lord Ṛṣabhadeva reached Brahmavarta. There, in an assembly of the best Brahmins and sages, he instructed his sons, who were well-behaved, devoted, and qualified. At the same time, the citizens were able to hear. So now we're going to read those instructions. And we're going to read the full chapter today, hopefully. And Lord Ṛṣabhadeva, he imparts to them the importance of human life, ending the transmigration cycle, cutting through the knots of illusion, the process to attain liberation, obligations of a leader, the Lord and his... Anyways, these are all the topics. The Lord and his devotee in one family, the glory of the Brahmins, and then we read Lord Ṛṣabhadeva's renunciation as an avadut. He enthrones Bharat. That's what that chapter ends with. Okay. So let me hide this. Chapter 5. Lord Ṛṣabhadeva's teachings to his sons. In this chapter, there is a description of Bhagavat Dharma, religious principles and devotional service that transcends religious principles for liberation and the migration of material miseries, I guess. It is stated in this chapter that a human being should not work hard like dogs and hogs for sense gratification. The human life is especially meant for the revival of our relationship with the Supreme Lord, and to this end, all kinds of austerities and penances should be accepted. By austere activities, one's heart can be cleansed of material contamination, and as a result, one can be situated on the spiritual platform. To attain this perfection, one has to take shelter of a devotee and serve him. Then the door of liberation will be opened. Those who are materially attached to women and sense gratification gradually become entangled in material consciousness and suffer the miseries of birth, old age, disease, and death. Those who are engaged in the general welfare of all
and who are not attached to children and family are called Mahatmas. Those who are engaged in sense gratification, who act piously or impiously, cannot understand the purpose of the soul. Therefore, they should approach a highly elevated devotee and accept him as a spiritual master. By his association, one will be able to understand the purpose of life. Under the instructions of such a spiritual master, one can attain devotional service to the Lord, detachment from material things, and tolerance of material misery and distress. One can then see all living entities equally, and one becomes very eager to know about the transcendental subject matters. Endeavoring persistently for the satisfaction of Krishna, one becomes detached from wife, children, and home. He is not interested in wasting time. In this way, one becomes self-realized. A person advanced in spiritual knowledge does not engage anyone in material activity. And one who cannot deliver another person by instructing him in devotional service should not become a spiritual master, father, mother, demigod, or husband. Oh, I think I know this verse. Guru nasasat, sadhano nasasat. No, Guru nasasat. Anyways, we'll get there. Instructing his 100 sons, Lord Ṛṣabhadeva advised them to accept their eldest brother, Bharat, as their guide and lord, and thereby serve him. Of all living entities, the Brahmins are the best, and above the Brahmins, the Vaishnavas are situated in even a better position. Serving a Vaishnav means serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, Shukadeva Goswami describes the characteristics of Bharat Maharaj and the sacrificial performance executed by Lord Ṛṣabhadeva for the instruction of the general populace. Ṛṣabha uvacha Nayam deho bhajam nriloke kashtam kaman arhate vir bhujante ye tapo divyam putraka yena sattvam shudyed yasmar brahma sokyam tvanantam. Lord Ṛṣabhadeva told his sons, "My dear boys, of all the living entities who have accepted material bodies in this world, one who has been awarded this human form should not work hard. One who has attained this human form of life should not work hard day and night simply for sense gratification, which is available even for dogs and hogs that eat stool. One should engage in penance and austerity to attain the divine position of devotional service. By such activity, one's heart is purified, and when one attains this position, he attains eternal blissful life, which is transcendental to material happiness and which continues forever." Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In this verse, Lord Ṛṣabhadeva tells his sons about the importance of human life. The word dehabhak refers to anyone who accepts a material body, but the living entity who is awarded the human form must act differently from animals. Animals like dogs and hogs enjoy sense gratification by eating stool. After undergoing severe hardships all day, human beings are trying to enjoy themselves at night by eating, drinking, having sex, and sleeping. At the same time, they have to properly defend themselves. However, this is not human civilization. Human life means voluntarily practicing suffering for the advancement of spiritual life. There is, of course, suffering in the lives of animals and plants, which are suffering due to their past misdeeds. However, human beings should voluntarily accept suffering in the form of austerities and penances in order to attain the divine life. After attaining the divine life, one can enjoy happiness eternally. After all, every living entity is trying to enjoy happiness, but as long as one is encaged in a material body, he has to suffer different kinds of misery. A higher sense is present in the human form. We should act according to superior advice in order to attain eternal happiness and go back to Godhead. It is significant in this verse that the government and the natural guardian, the father, should educate subordinates and raise them to Krishna consciousness. Devoid of Krishna consciousness, every living being suffers in this cycle of birth and death perpetually. To relieve them of this, to relieve them from this bondage and enable them to become blissful and happy, Bhakti Yoga should be taught. A foolish civilization neglects to teach people about how to rise to the platform of Bhakti Yoga. Without Krishna consciousness, a person is no better than a hog or dog. The instructions of Ṛṣabhadeva are very essential at the present moment. People are being educated and trained to work very hard for sense gratification, and there is no sublime aim in life. A man travels to earn his livelihood, leaving home early in the morning, catching a local train, and being packed in a compartment. He has to stand for an hour or two in order to reach his place of business. Then again, he takes a bus to get to the office. At the office, he works hard from 9 to 5. Then he takes 2 or 3 hours to return home. After eating, he has sex and goes to sleep. For all this hardship, his only happiness is a little sex. Yanmaitunadi grihamedi sukam hitucham. Ṛṣabhadeva clearly states that human life is not meant for this kind of existence, which is enjoyed even by dogs and hogs. Indeed, dogs and hogs do not have to work so hard for sex. A human being should try to live in a different way, and should not try to imitate dogs and hogs. The alternative is mentioned. Human life is meant for tapasya, austerity and penance. By tapasya, one can get out of the material clutches. When one is situated in Krishna consciousness, devotional service, his happiness is guaranteed eternally. By taking to Bhakti Yoga, devotional service, one's existence is purified. The living entity is seeking happiness, life after life, but he can make a solution to all his problems simply by practicing Bhakti Yoga. Then he immediately becomes eligible to return home, back to Godhead, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 4.9. Janma karma chame devyam evam yo veti tattvata tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mam eti sorjuna. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving this body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. Oh, I know this verse. Sorry. Mahatsevam dvaram ahur vimuktes tamo dvaram yoshitam sangi sangam mahantaste samachita prashanta vimanyavasu rita sadhavoye. We learned this in Gurukul, this verse. One can attain the path of liberation from material bondage only by rendering service to highly advanced spiritual personalities. These personalities are impersonalists and devotees. Whether one wants to merge into the Lord's existence or wants to associate with the personality of Godhead, one should render service to the Mahatmas. For those who are not interested in such activities, who associate with people fond of women and sex, the path to hell is wide open. The Mahatmas are equipoised. They do not see any difference between one living entity and another. They are very peaceful and are fully engaged in devotional service. They are devoid of anger and they work for the benefit of everyone. They do not behave in an abominable way. Such people are known as Mahatmas. Wow, that was a very, there's a lot extra in that translation. It's like a Bhavanuvad. I'm just, sorry, could you, just one second. I'm curious what the simple, oh, I already closed the window, I guess. Never mind. Purport. The human body is like a junction. One may either take the path of liberation or the path leading to a hellish condition. How one can take these paths is described herein. On the path of liberation, oh God, let me check on my book because that looks weird. Okay. On the path of liberation, one associates with Mahatmas. Okay, there's just an S missing and a semicolon randomly there. So, okay, on the path of liberation, one associates with Mahatmas. And on the path of bondage, one associates with those attached to sense gratification and women. There are two types of Mahatmas, the impersonalist and the devotee. Although their ultimate goal is different, the process of emancipation is almost the same. Both want eternal happiness. One seeks happiness in impersonal Brahman, and the other seeks happiness in association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As described in the first verse, Brahma Sokyam. Brahman means spiritual or eternal. Both the impersonalist and the devotee seek eternal blissful life. In any case, it is advised that one become perfect. In the words of Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 2287, Asat Sangatyag e Vaishnava Achar, Stri Sangi Eka Sadhu Krishna Bhakta Ar. To remain unattached to the modes of material nature, one should avoid associating with those who are asat, materialistic. There are two kinds of materialists. One is attached to women and sense gratification, and the other is simply a non-devotee. On the positive side is association with Mahatmas, and on the negative side is the avoidance of non-devotees and women hunters. Okay, so actually in the Sanskrit it just says Mahatma, Mahat Sevam. It just says Mahat, service to the Mahatmas. But then Srila Prabhupada, in his translation, he added this whole part about how there's impersonalists and devotees. And, okay, interesting. Yeva maishe kritaso hridarta janeshu deham paravartikeshu griheshu jayatmaja ratimatsu na pritiyukta yavarartashchaloke. Those who are interested in reviving Krishna consciousness and increasing their love of Godhead do not like to do anything that is not related to Krishna. They are not interested in mingling with people who are busy maintaining their bodies, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. They are not attached to their homes, although they may be householders. Nor are they attached to wives, children, friends, or wealth. At the same time, they are not indifferent to the execution of their duties. Such people are interested in collecting only enough money to keep the body and soul together. Purport. Whether he is an impersonalist or a devotee, one who is actually interested in advancing spiritually should not mingle with those who are simply interested in maintaining the body by means of the so-called advancement of civilization. Those who are interested in spiritual life should not be attached to homely comforts in the company of wife, children, friends, and so forth. Even if one is a grihasta and has to earn his livelihood, he should be satisfied by collecting only enough money to maintain body and soul together. One should not have more than that, nor less than that. As indicated herein, a householder should endeavor to earn money for the execution of bhakti yoga. Shravanam kirtanam Vishnu smaranam pada sevanam archanam vandanam dasyam sakyam atmanivedanam. A householder should lead such a life that he gets full opportunity to hear and chant. He should worship the deity at home, observe festivals, invite friends, and give them prasad. A householder should earn money for this purpose, not for sense gratification. Nunam pramata kurute vikarma yadindriya pritaya aprinoti nasadu manye yata atmano yam asanapi kleshada asadeha. When a person considers sense gratification the aim of life, he certainly becomes mad after materialistic living and engages in all kinds of sinful activity. He does not know that due to his past misdeeds, he has already received a body which, although temporary, is the cause of his misery. Actually, the living entity should not have taken on a material body, but he has been awarded the material body for sense gratification. Therefore, I think it is not befitting an intelligent man to involve himself again in the activities of sense gratification, by which he perpetually gets material bodies one after another. Purport. Begging, borrowing, and stealing to live for sense gratification is condemned in this verse, because such consciousness leads to a dark, hellish condition. The four sinful activities are illicit sex, meat-eating, intoxication, and gambling. These are the means by which one gets another material body that is full of miseries. In the Vedas it is said, Asango hyayam purusha. The living entity is not really connected with this material world, but due to his tendency to enjoy the material assets, he is put into the material condition. One should perfect his life by associating with devotees. He should not become further implicated in the material body. Parabhavastavar abhudajato yavana jigyasata atmatatvam yavat kriyastavar idang manovai karmatmakam yena sharirabandha. As long as one does not inquire about the spiritual values of life, one is defeated and subjected to miseries arising from ignorance. Be it sinful or pious, karma has its resultant actions. If a person is engaged in any kind of karma, his mind is called karmatmika, colored with fruitive activity. As long as the mind is impure, consciousness is unclear, and as long as one is absorbed in fruitive activity, he has to accept a material body. Purport. Generally, people think that one should act very piously in order to be relieved from misery. But this is not a fact. Even though one engages in pious activity and speculation, he is nonetheless defeated. His only aim should be emancipation from the clutches of Maya and all material activities. Speculative knowledge and pious activity do not solve the problems of material life. One should be inquisitive to understand his spiritual position, as stated in Bhagavad Gita 4:37. Yathai dhangsi samidognir bhasmasat kurute arjuna jnanagni sarvakarmani bhasmasat kurute tatha. As a blazing fire turns fireward to ashes, O Arjuna, so does the fire of knowledge burn to ashes all reactions to material activities. Unless one understands the self and its activities, one has to be considered in material bondage. In Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 10.2.32, it is also said, Ye niravindaksha vimuktamaninas tvayasta bhavad avishuddha buddhaya. A person who does not have knowledge of devotional service may think himself liberated, but actually he is not. Aruya kritrena parampadam tata patantado nadrita yushmarangraya. Such people may approach the impersonal Brahman effulgence, but they fall down again into material enjoyment because they have no knowledge of devotional service. As long as one is interested in karma and jnana, he continues enduring the miseries of material life, birth, old age, disease, and death. Karmis certainly take on one body after another. As far as jnanis are concerned, unless they are promoted to the topmost understanding, they must return to the material world. As explained in Bhagavad Gita 7.19, Bahunam janmanam ante jnanavang mang prapadyate. The point is to know Krishna, Vasudeva, as everything, and surrender unto him. Karmis do not know this, but a devotee who is 100% engaged in the devotional service of the Lord knows fully what is karma and jnana. Therefore, a pure devotee is no longer interested in karma or jnana. Anya bilashita shunyam jnana karmadhanavratam. The real bhakta is untouched by any tinge of karma and gyan. His only purpose in life is to serve the Lord. Oh, 1 second. You can put the mridanga here and sit. Evam mana karma vasham prayunkte avedayatmanyupadhiyamane pritirnayavam may vasudeve namuchate deha yogena tavat. Also, if you want to follow along in the book, you can. When the living entity is covered by the mode of ignorance, he does not understand the individual living being and the supreme living being, and his mind is subjugated to fruitive activity. Therefore, until one has love for Lord Vasudeva, who is none other than myself, he is certainly not delivered from having to accept a material body again and again. Purport. When the mind is polluted by fruitive activity, the living entity wants to be elevated from one material position to another. Generally, everyone is involved in working hard, day and night, to improve his economic condition. Even when one understands the Vedic rituals, he becomes interested in promotion to heavenly planets, not knowing that one's real interest lies in returning home back to Godhead. By acting on the platform of fruitive activity, one wanders throughout the universe in different species and forms. Unless he comes in contact with a devotee of the Lord, a guru, he does not become attached to the service of Lord Vasudeva. Knowledge of Vasudeva requires many births to understand. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 7.19, Vasudeva Saram iti sa mahatma sadurlabha. After struggling for existence for many births, one may take shelter at the lotus feet of Vasudeva, Krishna. When this happens, one actually becomes wise and surrenders unto him. That is the only way to stop the repetition of birth and death. This is confirmed in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya 19.151, and the instructions given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Srila Rupa Goswami at Dashwa Ashwamedha Ghat. Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagyavana Jeev Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Bij. The living entity wanders throughout different planets in different forms and bodies. But if by chance he comes in contact with a bona fide spiritual master, by the grace of the spiritual master, he receives Lord Krishna's shelter, and his devotional life begins. Yada napashyatayata guneham swarte pramata sahasa vipaschit gata smritir vindati tatra tapan asadamaitunyam agaramagya. Even though one may be very learned and wise, he is mad if he does not understand that the endeavor for sense gratification is a useless waste of time. Being forgetful of his own interest, he tries to be happy in the material world, centering his interest around his home, which is based on sexual intercourse and which brings him all kinds of material miseries. In this way, one is no better than a foolish animal. Purport. In the lowest stage of devotional life, one is not an unalloyed devotee. Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karmadhyanavratam. To be an unalloyed devotee, one must be freed from all material desires and untouched by fruitive activity and speculative knowledge. On the lower platform, one may sometimes be interested in philosophical speculation with a tinge of devotion. However, at that stage, one is still interested in sense gratification and is contaminated by the modes of material nature. The influence of Maya is so strong that even a person advanced in knowledge actually forgets that he is Krishna's eternal servant. Therefore, he remains satisfied in his householder life, which is centered around sexual intercourse. Conceding to a life of sex, he agrees to suffer all kinds of material miseries. Due to ignorance, One is thus bound by the chain of material laws. Pungsastriya mituni bhavam etan tayormito hridaya grantemahu ato griha kshetra sutaptat vitar janasya moho yam ahang mameti. Well, this is an important verse. The attraction between male and female is the best principle of material existence. On the basis of this misconception, I was like, what? That doesn't sound like normal. Oh. But on the basis of this misconception, which ties together the hearts of the male and female, one becomes attracted to his body, home, property, children, relatives, and wealth. In this way, one increases life's illusions and thinks in terms of I and mine. Purport. Are you able to understand this English?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
Yeah. Purport. Sex serves as the natural attraction between man and woman, and when they are married, their relationship becomes more involved. Their relationship, whatever. Due to the entangling relationship between man and woman, there's a sense of illusion whereby one thinks, this man is my husband, or this woman is my wife. This is called Hridaya Granthi, the hard knot in the heart. This knot is very difficult to undo, even though a man and a woman separate either for the principles of varnashram or simply to get a divorce. In any case, the man always thinks of the woman, and the woman always thinks of the man. Thus, a person becomes materially attached to family, property, and children, although all of these are temporary. The possessor unfortunately identifies with his property and wealth. Sometimes, even after renunciation, one becomes attached to a temple or to the few things that constitute the property of a sannyasi. But such attachment is not as strong as family attachment. The attachment to the family is the strongest illusion. And the Satya Samhita, it is stated, Pramadya Yagyavalkadya, yeah, I said that right, Muchante Stri Sahadnina, Bodhyante Kechanaitesham, Vishesham Cha Vido Vidu. Sometimes it is found among exalted personalities like Lord Brahma that the wife and children are not a cause of bondage. On the contrary, the wife actually helps further spiritual life and liberation. Nonetheless, most people are bound by the knots of the marital. You say marital, right? Yeah, marital relationship, and consequently, they forget their relationship with Krishna. When I was living in Keshavji Gaudiya Math and also in Jagannath Puri, also here, all the ladies that come, they're all even though they're householders, they do so much service in the temple and make garlands and do so many different things and go for Hari Katha. And so, these kinds of, that way the wife actually helps further spiritual life and liberation. Yada mano hridaya grantirasya karmanubaddo drida ashlateta tada jana samparivartate smar mukta param yatyatihaya hetum. When the strong knot in the heart of a person implicated in material life due to the results of past actions is slackened, one turns away from his attachments to home, wife, and children. In this way, one gives up the basic principle of illusion, I and mine, and becomes liberated. Thus one goes to the transcendental world. Purport. When, by associating with sadhus and engaging in devotional service, one is gradually freed from the material conception due to knowledge, practice, and detachment, the knot of attachment in the heart is slackened. Thus one can get freed from conditional life and become eligible to return home, back to Godhead. Just in case there's lines missing in this, I'm going to read it like this. One second. What verse are we on? 10.
10.
Okay. There. Hangse guru mai bhaktyānuvrittya vitrishnaya dvandva titikshaya cha sarvatra jantor vyasana vagatya jigyasaya tapaseha nivritya mat karma bhirmat kataya chanityam madeva sangar guna kirtanam me nirvairasam yo pashamena putra jihasaya deha gehatma buddhe adhyatma yogena vivikta sevaya pranindriyatma bhijayena sadhryak sajradaya brahmacharyena shashvad asampramadena yamena vacham sarvatra madbhava vichakshanena jnanena vijnana virajitena yogena dhrityudyama sattva yukto lingam vyapohet kushalo hamakyam. O my sons, you should accept a highly elevated Paramahamsa, a spiritually advanced spiritual master. In this way, you should place your faith and love in me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You should detest sense gratification and tolerate the duality of pleasure and pain, which are like the seasonal changes of summer and winter. Try to realize the miserable condition of living entities who are miserable even in the higher planetary systems. Philosophically, inquire about the truth. Then undergo all kinds of austerities and penances for the sake of devotional service. Give up the endeavor for sense enjoyment and engage in the service of the Lord. Listen to discussions about the Supreme Personality of Godhead and always associate with devotees. Chant about and glorify the Supreme Lord and look upon everyone equally on the spiritual platform. Give up enmity and subdue anger and lamentation. Abandon identifying the self with the body and the home, and practice reading the revealed scriptures. Live in a secluded place and practice the process by which you can completely control your life air, mind, and senses. Have full faith in the revealed scriptures, the Vedic literatures, and always observe celibacy. Perform your prescribed duties and avoid unnecessary talks. Always thinking of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, acquire knowledge from the right source. Thus, practicing Bhakti Yoga, you will patiently and enthusiastically be elevated in knowledge and will be able to give up the false ego. Purport. In these 4 verses, Ṛṣabhadeva tells his sons how they can be freed from the false identification arising from false ego and material conditional life. One gradually becomes liberated by practicing as mentioned above. All these prescribed methods enable one to give up the material body, lingam vyapohet, and be situated in his original spiritual body. First of all, one has to accept a bona fide spiritual master. This is advocated by Srila Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Shri Guru Padashraya. To be freed from the entanglement of the material world, one has to approach a spiritual master. Tadvigyanartam sagurum eva vigachet samit panishrotriyam brahmanishtam. I need to see the book for 1 second. Okay. Sorry. By questioning the spiritual master and by serving him, one can advance in spiritual life. When one engages in devotional service, naturally the affection for personal comfort, for eating, sleeping, and dressing, is reduced. By associating with a devotee, a spiritual standard is maintained. The word Madheva Sangat is very important. There are many so-called religions devoted to the worship of various demigods, but here, good association means association with one who simply accepts Krishna as his worshipable deity. Another important item is Dvandva Titiksha. As long as one is situated in the material world, there must be pleasure and pain arising from the material body. As Krishna advises in Bhagavad Gita, Tanks Tikshvasa Bharata, one has to learn how to tolerate all the temporary pains and pleasures of this material world. One must also be detached from his family and practice celibacy. Sex with one's wife according to the scriptural injunctions is also accepted as brahmacharya, celibacy, but illicit sex is opposed to religious principles, and it hampers advancement in spiritual consciousness. Another important word is vijnana virajita. Everything should be done very scientifically and consciously. One should be a realized soul. In this way, one can give up the entanglement of material bondage. As Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam points out, the sum and substance of these 4 shlokas is that one should refrain from acting out of a desire for sense gratification, and should instead always engage in the Lord's loving service. In other words, Bhakti Yoga is the acknowledged path of liberation. Srila Madhvacharya quotes from the Adhyatma, Atmano vihitam karma varjayitvanya karmana kamasya cha paritago nirihetyahuruttama. One should perform activities only for the benefit of the soul. Any other activity should be given up. When a person is situated in this way, he is said to be desireless. Actually, a living entity cannot be totally desireless, but when he desires the benefit of the soul and nothing else, he is said to be desireless. Spiritual knowledge is jnana vijnana samanvitam. When one is fully equipped with jnana and vijnana, he is perfect. Jnana means that one understands the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu to be the Supreme Being. Vijnana refers to the activities that liberate one from the ignorance of material existence. As stated in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 2.931, Jnanam parama guhyam meyar vijnanam samanvitam. Knowledge of the Supreme Lord is very confidential, and the supreme knowledge by which one understands Him furthers the liberation of all living entities. This knowledge is vijnana, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 4.9. Janma karma chame devyam evang yo veti tattvata tyakta deham punarjanma naiti mam eti sorjuna. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. And this is the last verse. How long is the purport? Just want to see. Okay. Oh no. Oh, this goes on for a bit longer. Anyhow, we're ending with this verse. Karmashayam hridaya granti bandham avidyaya saditam apramata anena yogena yatopadesham samyag vyapohyo parameta yogat. As I have advised you, my dear sons, you should act accordingly. Be very careful. By these means, you'll be freed from the ignorance of the desire for fruitive activity, and the knot of bondage in the heart will be completely severed. For further advancement, you should also give up the means. That is, you should not become attached to the process of liberation itself. Purport. The process of liberation is Brahma Jigyasa, the search for the absolute truth. Generally, Brahma Jigyasa is called Neti Neti, the process by which one analyzes existence to search out the absolute truth. This method continues as long as one is not situated in his spiritual life. Spiritual life is Brahma Bhuta, the self-realized state. In the words of Bhagavad Gita 18.54, Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma na shochati na kankshati sama sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labate param. One who is thus transcendently situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments, nor desires to have anything. He is equally disposed to every living entity. In that state, he attains pure devotional service unto me. The idea is to enter into the para bhakti, the transcendental devotional service of the Supreme Lord. To attain this, one must analyze one's existence. But when one is actually engaged in devotional service, he should not bother seeking out knowledge. By simply engaging in devotional service undeviatingly, one will always remain in the liberated condition. Mam cha yogo vyavicharena bhakti yogena sevate sa gunan samitityaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. Bhagavad Gita 14:26. The unflinching execution of devotional service is in itself Brahma Bhuta. Another important feature in this connection is anena yogena yatopadesham. The instructions received from the spiritual master must be followed immediately. One should not deviate or surpass the instructions of the spiritual master. One should not be simply intent on consulting books, but should simultaneously execute the spiritual master's order, yatopadesham. This is important. Remember I said every day I want to write just one thing, one instruction to keep. I'll do this one. Mystic power should be achieved to enable one to give up the material conception. But when one actually engages in devotional service, one does not need to practice the mystic yoga system. The point is that one can give up the practice of yoga, but devotional service cannot be given up. As stated in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 1.7.10, Atmaramascha munayo nirgranta apyarukrame kurvantya haitukim bhaktim itam bhutta guno hari. Even those who are liberated, Atmarama, must always engage in devotional service. One may give up the practice of yoga when one is self-realized, but at no stage can one give up devotional service. All other activities for self-realization, including yoga and philosophical speculation, may be given up, but devotional service must be retained at all times. And it just turned 8. Cool, perfect timing. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol. And just one quick thing. Tomorrow I'm traveling to Jagannath Puri. I'm going to be leaving here at, I'm going actually to another place first, and then I'm going to Kolkata, and then I'm going to Puri. So I'll probably be leaving like really early in the morning tomorrow after Mangalarti. So I have a bunch of things to do today, but if I get time, then I might just pre-record a reading, and then make that recording go live at this time, so that it looks like I'm live, but actually I'm not live. I've just pre-recorded it, and that way we don't need to break in our Bhagavatam reading. But if I don't manage to do that, then I might not read tomorrow. I might be on a bus or something. And then also the day after tomorrow, because I'm arriving in Puri on the 10th morning. I might not get a chance to read on the 10th either. So yeah, maybe I'll record 2 days. We'll just see how I do with my with all the things on my lists of things to do today if I get time to record. Anyhow, okay. Jai Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Giridhari Shri Shri Radha Vinod Bihari Ju Ki Jai Shri Govana Gopinath Maran Mohan Ju Ki Jai Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashwatarashatashmad Shila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Shila Gurudev Ki Jai Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashwatarashatashmad Shila Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashwatarashatashmad Shila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Shila Prabhupada Ki Jai Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashwatarashatashmad Shila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashwatarashatashmad Shila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai Nitil Pravishta Maha Bhagavat Shila Goksharas Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai Nitil Pravishta Shila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai Nitil Pravishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Shila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai Shri Rupanu Gauriya Guru Varga Ki Jai Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jeev Gopal Bhatta Dashagunath Sharda Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parshad Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Shila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Kshetra Mandala Gaura Mandala Braja Mandala Mathura Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Sarva Abhishta Pradata Giriraj Maharaj Ki Jai Shri Radha Kund Shama Kund Ki Jai Shri Mona Devi Ganga Devi Ki Jai Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Jai Shri Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Shri Purnamasi Yogamaya Ki Jai Shri Gopeshwar Mahadev Ki Jai Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai Samagata Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo Vrindaya Tulsi Devaya Priyaya Keshavasya Krishna Bhakti Pradadevi Sattvatai Namo Namaha Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. And yesterday I think my reading was a lot more smooth, but today it wasn't smooth. So some days I'm just like in the mood and I'm in it, and then some days it's just really difficult for me. I don't know why that happens. It's just like I get in a certain mindset. But Bhavataruni Mataji is asking, what's happening with devotees having to leave India by August 31st? Yeah, that's what I heard. I mean, this is the first time. I mean, throughout this whole pandemic, they keep on extending the time when we can stay here. But this one I think was even more official, and it came from somebody wrote a letter to the U.S. Embassy, and they got this letter back. I don't know. Anyhow, yeah, it looks like we might have to leave India by August 31st. What I'm hoping to do is to just go to Bangladesh and hang out there for a little while until India opens back up. That's what I'm thinking. But I don't know. Yeah, I have no idea what's going to happen then. Oh, Nari Hari Prabhu. Dandavat Pranams. Okay. Thank you, Indira Mataji. Dandavat Pranams, Rukmini Didi. Haribol. Oh, Haribol Madhavi Didi. Dandavat Pranams. Alright, I'm going to end the video now. And yeah, we'll see. I might go live tomorrow or I might not. We'll see. Haribol.